he is Mr. Samrat Guhorai. Just let me introduce him. He is Mr. Samrat Guhorai, the assistant librarian of our central library. He is one of the most important person in the central library. He is doing lot of IT, information technology work, digital library. So, all these things he is actively doing. And what are the presentation that he has presented? I hope this will be very useful for you, because nowadays that creating a institution digital repository and harvesting the content from other source of library, it will be very useful for you. And what he has shown in during this presentation, the exactly the National Digital Library of India is doing, because this is the idea that that we have given, that this is the way to harvest the content from different institutional repository, and then we can collect the information at one place, and then there will be indexing process, and then from there the user will get the universe of knowledge. Wherever the information is available, all the information will be searchable in single window access facility. So, I hope the presentation, and then is though it is a theoretical, but mostly he has shown the practical means demonstration, because it is due to COVID situation, it is very difficult to personally present there, and also you have to present the workshop, or everything is remotely. So, it is very difficult to give a physical demonstration, means hands on training or hands on demonstration. So, we thought that this is the way to give the presentation, so that everybody will understand clearly. And also I request you, I will give you my email address and also his email address. So, after hearing this presentation, and when you are going to apply this in your practical life, if you have any problem, you are most welcome to communicate with us. We will remotely support you whenever and wherever you will require. So, with this, thank you very much. Now, the last presentation that we will be giving, as I told you that yesterday I have given a lecture on digitization process. Now, today I will show you how to digitize, what are the techniques, what are the scanner that we are using. So, that also will be useful for you. With this, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello friends, today I will be discussing about institutional digital repository. So, myself Mr. Samrat Guhorai, I am working as assistant librarian at Central Library, IIT Kharagpur. I am looking after the console room, server room and the digital library. So, today as Dr. B. Sutradhar, our librarian, had already discussed about the digitization process and all the metadata informations, and how the digital PDF will be uploaded into the institutional digital repository. So, today we will be going through a brief discussion about the installation of a digital repository software, and I will be talking about Diskspace. It is a open source software, and about the various features. And at the end of the tutorial, I will be showing you the demonstration of uploading item in Diskspace. In my other videos, I will be discussing about the implementation of metadata schema and control vocabulary, and at the end I will be discussing about the metadata harvesting, backup and restore, about the different other features and administrative task of maintaining a Diskspace server. So, quickly I will start with the institutional digital repository. So, my objective for today's session is what is an idea about Diskspace, hardware requirements, prerequisite software requirements, Diskspace installation, Diskspace community and collection, Diskspace item workflow, IDR @central-library IIT Kharagpur, a demo, as well as I will upload a bitstream and give a demonstration of that upload process. So, with the discussion of institutional digital repository, as we have heard the tutorial of Dr. Sutradhar sir, our librarian, about the importance of digitization. So, whatever thesis are present in our library, we can digitize those theses, we can digitize the question paper. If those are not born, if those things are not born digital, then we need to digitize them, and if it is already digitized in a digital format, then we can upload that straightly, we can upload that digital content into the institutional digital repository. We can also digitize other rare documents, rare books, and we can put them into the digital repository. So, digital repository is the software or the content repository software which keeps the archival of the digitized document, and it is for long term preservation. It has got many other features like full text search and author search and date search and other things. As well as for making the search more precise, we can implement the different metadata schema. Already Diskspace and other digital repository softwares are having the Dublin core metadata schema by default, but in Diskspace specifically, as I will be discussing about Diskspace, we can implement LRMI metadata schema, and I will be discussing that too. So, this archival repository is responsible for preserving our digital content and disseminating the digital copies of the intellectual output of our institute. So, there are various digital repository softwares are now available in internet, Diskspace, and it is of Diskspace Foundation, and then ePrint, Fedora, Greenstone, and many more digital repository softwares are available. But we use specifically these 4 different types of softwares for various purposes. Mainly if you see the repository and their use throughout the whole world, and then you will find Diskspace and ePrints are majorly used. So, it is the first public version of Diskspace is released in 2002. So, with this we can understand it has gone through a long phase, and it is now a very well developed software. It is the effort of MIT and HP labs initially. Now, the Diskspace Foundation maintains all other release and latest release and other stable releases and all. Diskspace, as I have already mentioned, it preserves and enables easy and open access for all types of digital content, and like movies, images and MPEGs and data sets. Diskspace is freely available and it is a open source software, and this is the main thing due to which this software is being selected by many institutions and for the preservation of their documents. Some of the most important features of Diskspace are, as I mentioned, that it is freely available. We can maintain various type of documents in our Diskspace repository, starting from PDF, Word, JPEG, MPEG and TIFF files, and it is completely customizable, and we can customize various parts of the Diskspace functionality, and the search is based upon the Solr search, and it supports UTF-8, which is responsible for supporting multilingual, and the various groups and access controls and settings and permissions we can give to various levels, like starting from community, collection to and item wise. Briefly we will see first the desktop. We require desktop, we can to start with a Diskspace installation. we can install it in a desktop computer and with a dual core processor, minimum 2 GB RAM and hard disk capacity of 300 GB. So, this is I have written a minimum requirement for installing into a desktop, but if you are putting the server and many users will be accessing the contents present in the Diskspace server, then I will suggest that you should take a server configuration and implement it. When it will go for live and you are going to use it public in a public domain also. So, you should have a stable server which should have a UPS connectivity and all the you should take regular backup of the server. So, that it when you if there is any disaster, then you should be able to overcome that. Brief information for your prerequisites for Diskspace installation. We need Java, we need Apache Ant, we need Apache Tomcat, Apache Maven, PostgreSQL database server, and the latest version stable versions is of 6.x and 7 will be released, and these are the things what we will be needing for the installation of Diskspace. So, I have just shown a brief idea for the installation part of Diskspace, although a lot of manuals and good manual is available in Diskspace Foundation site. So, what I use regularly is I collect the or I download the latest version of Apache Ant, Apache Maven, Apache Tomcat and Apache and Diskspace. So, all these are present in the website and I download them as tar file and just unzip that tar file in different folders. So, these do not need any installation, actually these are only for just unzip them. The main thing which is needed for this is whether you install it in a Windows environment or you install it in a Linux environment. After unzipping them, you need to set the environmental variable, so that the Ant command, the Maven command or the Apache Tomcat command should be executing. So, you need to set the environmental variable for Java home, you need to set the environmental variable for Ant home, you need to set the environmental variable for Maven home and Catalina home. So, after setting the environmental variables, you should install the PostgreSQL database server, and after installing the PostgreSQL server, now you are ready for the installation, compilation and installation of the Diskspace. So, when you have installed the PostgreSQL server, you can use pgAdmin based upon the PostgreSQL. You can use pgAdmin 3 or pgAdmin 4. These are the front end for accessing the GUI front end for accessing the PostgreSQL server, and in that you create a role first. That is the very important part. You create a role. I have named that role as Diskspace, and you create a database. I have named again that database as Diskspace, and make this role whatever I have created right now, make this role as the owner of the database. And this is a new thing which is present in Diskspace, and in the previous other versions or older versions like in 1 or 2 or version 4, we were not having this. You add a PG crypto to Diskspace database. So, so that it can make the encryption of the information, and finally, you run the Maven package and ant fresh install commands to compile and install the Diskspace. So, these I have just mentioned the major steps for the installation of the Diskspace. This is the quick part of it, and after the installation of Diskspace, you will get the Diskspace web page. I will like to show that thing. So, after the installation of Diskspace, you will come to the Diskspace home page. As soon as you will give the IP address and colon 8080 and XML UI, you get the Diskspace home. which shows nothing is present here. So, it is a fresh Diskspace what I have installed for this demonstration, and there is a login, and all these things are present here. So, in as soon as you click in login, it will ask for a email ID and it asks for a password. Now, this email ID and password are the administrators, and when you install the Diskspace, the administrators are being created while at the time of installation of Diskspace, or you can create another administrator later on using the create administrator command. So, I have used my email address as the administrator and I give the password. I have set the password as Diskspace 123 and I log in. So, as soon as I log in into the Diskspace, I get all the administrative panel, I get the context panel, I get the browse panel. So, by seeing this, you can understand that I have logged in as a administrator in this Diskspace. And here you will see in the context panel there is a community. So, now I will go to the PowerPoint once again. So, as soon as you install Diskspace, you will need to create the community. So, community is the topmost thing which is present, which is needed to be created in Diskspace. So, it is the topmost thing. Under the community you create the sub communities, and then under sub communities you create the collections and you upload the item and the bitstream metadata and licenses. But you can create a collection directly under the topmost community. It is upon to the choice of the or the need of the institute. So, in this example I have created a community and there is a sub community. Under the sub community there is a collection, and in this collection I am going to put the bitstreams and item, and this item is having three different things. One is metadata, one is the bitstream, and one is the license. And similarly, in other part I have just shown it that there is a collection, there is under the community I have not created any other sub community, there is a collection, under this collection there is item, bitstreams, metadata and licenses. So, a brief this is a flow chart for item workflow, how we are going to upload a item in Diskspace. So, as it is shown here, the article or document or the class note. So, here it is the article, the thing is the document what you have or we have digitized in our library, that document we can select. We can select any born digital document like a question paper, latest question paper, or an article or a preprint article, and we can take class notes or any PPT, like now I am displaying a PPT, that type of thing. So, anything we can take that as a document and we can upload into the Diskspace for its preservation, and the benefit will be users will be able to search that item and can download it. So, this item selection is the first part. Now, as soon as you have selected the item, you try to upload this item into the Diskspace. The most important thing now is the metadata entry part. So, metadata is the document informations like author name, first of all is title, author name, publisher name, when it is published, what is the other format of the document, whether it is a book, whether it is a whether it is a class note, whether it is a thesis. So, all these things, all these informations about the document is the metadata. So, it is better to collect that information and you keep it along with you while uploading it into the Diskspace. So, metadata entry we will be doing, after that we submit the file submission process is starting. So, metadata entry into the IDR, publisher reference is giving, bitstream is uploaded. So, somebody proof checks the information whether there is any wrong in metadata entry, because if you type the author name incorrectly, then the search result will be incorrect. So, when somebody will be searching the author, and if I have mentioned some other name, then it will not be able to search it. So, proof checking will be done and wrong entry will be again modified, and this cycle is again done, and correct entry is then archived into the IDR. So, it is a simple item workflow, and where all these things are checked in different phases of the submission process. It is another slide where I have tried to show the screenshots for the uploading of the document. So, administration is admin is login, or the administrator, as I have logged in into the Diskspace. So, admin logs in. So, I select a collection where I want to submit the PDF file or the Word file or the PPT file. So, as soon as I select the collection where I want to upload, it shows me to submit an item. Then I put the author name, I give the publisher name, I give the creator's name, editor name, and the required metadata information. And then next it tells me to upload the file. So, here I select the file from my desktop and I upload it, and then I go for a license part. It verifies, review your submission. So, it verifies my submission, and I need to if there is a license, if my own license is there, you can copy paste that license information in the Diskspace. If you do not have anything, then you can keep the open access license which is available in Diskspace, and you need to grant that license, because and Diskspace is having the motto for open access and providing the document openly accessible for all users. So, you grant that license and complete the submission process. So, this is the item workflow which is being followed for the submission process. So, after submission, now it can be accessible. So, I have just given a screenshot for our IIT Kharagpur's idea. So, it is the screenshot of it, and it shows me the institutional digital repository text, news text, the note what I have written for the users, how they can download a PhD thesis, and the communities I have shown here. So, briefly I have just given the URL, you can copy it, that www.idr.iitkgp.ac.in. This is the URL for our institutional repository, and this is the notice for the user, and this is the topmost communities. So, I will go to the slide. So, as I have I was discussing that I have logged in here as administrator. Now, here I in the context menu I get create community option. So, as soon as I click in create community, it shows me a metadata information area. So, here I can type, suppose for example, I give it as so, I have just mentioned it as PhD thesis of IIT Kharagpur, and same I have just given a short description. I have given one introduction. This community stores the PhD thesis, stores all the PhD thesis of IIT Kharagpur. If there is any copyright, you can type that, and if there is any news, you can type that. If there is any logo, you can give a logo image to this community. Now, one thing is very important here, it is written as HTML. So, you can type some HTML tag also. Suppose if I want to show it in bold, you give the bold tag here. And then you click in create. So, it has created, and now you can click in return. So, now it shows me like this PhD thesis of IIT Kharagpur. So, this is a topmost community. Now, I want to create another community. Same here also. So, I am filling up these three, and similarly I also give here some and create and then return. So, as soon as you click here, now it has sorted the information in alphabetical order A and P, and then you click in this community. As soon as you click in this community, you see I have marked this introduction as bold. So, if I use any other, suppose if I want to edit it, so you can click in this context menu, you can get other, you will get other menu options. So, you click in edit community and you can type here underline tag, you can give the underline tag. And you click in update and then return. So, it shows you that this community stores all the annual report of IIT Kharagpur and the information is showed as underline. So, those who are a little acquainted with HTML taggings, they can put various kinds of or various types of HTML tag to make the information look better. So, now I have created two topmost community and I will create sub communities. So, I will go inside PhD thesis community and here I will get sub community, create sub community. So, create sub community option is available. So, I click here. As soon as I click here, it shows me enter metadata for new sub community of PhD thesis of IIT Kharagpur. So, I give here So, I have given department of CSE, short description I have just written computer science and I create and I return. Now, see here with these bullets only I can understand that this is a topmost community and this is a sub community. So, I can create another sub community like this. So, Department of Electronics and Telecommunication something. So, I just written electronics department and I am not putting anything here and I create it once again and I return it. So, now see here that it shows me annual reports which is not having any sub community, PhD thesis is having two different sub communities. Now, I select the sub community. As soon as I go inside the sub community, it shows me the menu options to create a collection or further sub community inside this sub community. So, now I can create a hierarchy like this, that there is a topmost community as I was discussing, and under the topmost community there is a sub community, and under that sub community again there are other sub communities I can do. So, this is the facility what it provides, that is the hierarchy of information. So, similarly many repositories I have seen that users have created the DDC classification. So, they have created topmost communities using DDC. So, they have given 00 and then they have given 100, then they have given 200, then they have given 300, and based upon the DDC classification they have created the subject classifications, they have created the topmost communities, and under that they have created specialized subject classifies and all the content they have put it into that subject area. So, that we that many repositories have done. In our case, we will try to implement the DDC vocabulary for our Diskspace. So, that will be present in my another video tutorial, and presently let us see the upload of a item. So, I go back to my home page and I create another top community like workshop PPT files. So, I have created a workshop PPT files, topmost community, and short description I have given PowerPoint files, and this community stores the workshop PowerPoint file, and I have clicked in create and then return. So, now my the hierarchy shows something like this, where I am having annual reports, PhD thesis for IIT Kharagpur, Department of Computer Science, Department of Electronics. I have created two sub communities, and I again created another topmost community as workshop PPT files. I click here. As soon as I click here, I go back to the same menu options, but this time I will not create a sub community, I will create a collection. So, now I mention it as DOPT workshop 2020. Then I give the name short description as Diskspace PPT files. And I write a introduction this is a PPT files. So, I filled up these three informations. It has got other also provenance is there and upload logo same as before, and you create it. Now, this is the authorization or role assign part of the item upload. So, here I will just give a brief information. First one is administrator. If you want to create any administrator for this, you can click in this create button to create a administrator specifically for this collection. If you want to create a submitter or a e-person, then you can click here and create a e-person. If you want to restrict the default read access of this item, then you can click in this restrict and restrict the access of this, and accept reject step also you can do. Now, what accept and reject step is? So, as I was discussing in my item workflow flow chart, there somebody enters a wrong metadata information. So, I can create a user e-person who will log in and will check the metadata information, and that metadata information is correct or not, and if it is correct then it will accept it, and if it is incorrect then it will reject that information. So, as soon as it accepts that information or the submission, then that gets archived into the Diskspace. But if that accept reject step rejects or the metadata is rejected, then it has to be again corrected by the submitter or by any other authorized e-person, and then only the document will be archived into the Diskspace. And this is a very important part of Diskspace, because it maintains the quality of the document as well as the metadata information. In my case, I am not going to do any one of these right now. I will just simply click in return. So, as soon as I click in return, it shows me the collection is available. Now, I click here, I click in submit a new item to this collection, and I give the author name. So, I give as So, I have just given Diskspace author name as Samrat Gohara, title Diskspace item upload. If there is any other alternative title, then you can upload that, and then date of it is 2020, and I can give that month December, and publisher I am giving it as IIT Kharagpur. If there is any government number or something to this document identifier, you can give that, otherwise you can leave it blank. What is this? This is animation or article or book or anything. So, we will give it as other, English, and next. So, you need to type some subject keywords. I am just giving Diskspace, and you can click in add. If there is any abstract, you can give I am just typing a text for model, some description, some sponsors. These informations may be filled according to your information. Click in next. This is the important part. It tells me to choose the file. I click in choose file, and I go to the PPT and I upload it, and then next. If you want, you can upload multiple files here also, but right now I have selected single file for my process. So, now after uploading it, it tells me to review the item. So, I just see all the things are correct. If I want to correct, you can go back to the editing part of it and you go to the next. This is the license part where it tells me to grant the license. I grant the license and I complete the submission. Now, let us go to the Diskspace home and let us try to refresh it. So, as soon as I refresh it, it shows me the Diskspace, and if I want to view, you can view this, and if I want to open it, you can click here to open this. Thank you.